So today's topic is EC2 creation. So before creating the EC2, first prerequisite is VPC. That means first you need to create VPC. First objective is. Second objective is you need to create EC2 instance. Yesterday I already explained what is meant by EC instance. Instance is nothing but a machine. Instance is nothing but a machine that you are launching. Okay, it's a virtual machine. You can call this as a virtual machine you are launching. Okay, so this virtual machine may have different types of operating system. The virtual OS may have different types of operating system, like Linux, Ubuntu, Windows. Okay, we can create the virtual machine with any kind of operating system that we require. Okay, so there are three types of operating systems generally. Okay, so operating systems generally three types. The first one, Windows. Second one, Linux. Third one, Ubuntu. So there are three types of operating systems. Okay, so these operating systems are, so for example, Windows is there. So it does not belong to any family, but this is normal operating system. Most frequently we are using. So coming to Linux, so Linux is belong to Red Hat Corporation. So that is we are calling as family. So Linux is belongs to Red Hat Corporation. So Red Hat is a company that is developed this Linux platform, Linux OS. Ubuntu, that is nothing but Debian platform, Debian OS family. Okay, Ubuntu OS is based on this. It is belong to Debian OS family, and Linux is belong to Red Hat OS family. So mostly in the real time, we are going to work with these three operating systems. In addition to this, we have one more. Okay, that is called as CentOS. CentOS. CentOS is nothing but that is also Linux platform. You can also call CentOS or Linux. But difference is Linux is the free version. CentOS is not the free version. Okay, you can use the Linux as a free, but you cannot use the CentOS as free. You need to pay for CentOS operating system, but you can use freely Linux operating system. Okay, hope you are understanding what is meant by free and paid. Okay, so for example, the olden days Windows XP is there or Windows 7 is there. So those OSs are freely available in the internet. Okay, but if you want to install Windows 10 or Windows 11 new version, so you need to purchase the key. Okay, you need to purchase the key. Licensed one should be there. Like that, CentOS is nothing but it's a paid service. Linux is a freeware. Okay. So next, so when you launch this EC2 instance, so by default it is provided with some storage. Okay. So that storage is nothing but, so for Windows they are providing 30 GB. Okay. By default they are providing 30 GB if you are using a free tier account. Okay, if you are using free tier account, so for Windows it is 30 GB. I will show again while launching the machine. So for Linux it is 8 GB, and for Ubuntu it is so for Linux it is 10 GB, and for Ubuntu it is 8 GB. Next one, so how we are installing the packages. Okay, for example, if you want to install a software in your Windows machine, What you are doing? You are simply go and search in the internet and you are downloading the some .exe files. But if it is Linux or Ubuntu machine, so these two machines are not having UI. Windows machine has UI. It is having graphical user interface is there. That means you can use the Chrome there. You can use Chrome or Internet Explorer or Mozilla or any internet browsing. These channels will be there so that you are surfing the internet in that browsers and you are downloading the proper software as per your requirement. But Linux and Ubuntu are not UI. Okay, they don't have user interface. They don't have graphical user interface. Okay, so you need to work with Linux or Ubuntu with command line only. Okay, so Windows has GUI. So if you want to work with Linux or Ubuntu, you need to use only terminal. That is we are calling as command line. You can call that as command line. Okay, if you want to install a software, okay, so you need to use command. If you want to download a software, you need to use a command. If you want to copy a file, you need to use a command. That means there is no GUI. Okay, there is no use of mouse in the Linux and Ubuntu. The entire work is with the keyboard only. Whereas in case of Windows, it is having GUI, so therefore you can work with both keyboard and mouse as you have it has GUI. Okay, so now coming to how we are installing the softwares. Okay, that is we are calling as package management. Package management. So how we are downloading the package. So in Windows, nothing but you are simply downloading from the internet. So that's why we are not mentioning anything. So for Linux, I just said before, if you want to install a software, okay, you need to use command. So that command is called yum. The command to install the software is yum. So whereas in case of Ubuntu, it is apt. It is apt. So once again, these commands I'll explain when we start the Linux commands topic. Okay, just as we are launching the machines, so I'm just giving a small description about this one. You can remember this. So these are very, very important. And in future, you are going to work with these commands only. For Linux, it is yum. For Ubuntu, it is apt. Okay. So next, port. So default port is there. For Windows, we have a default port that is 3389. Okay. So for Linux, it is 22. For Ubuntu also, it is 22. That means if you want to connect with the machine, we need one port. So by default, so this is a default port. So for Windows, the default port is 3389. For Linux and for Ubuntu, the default port is 22. Okay. So next default username is there. Default username. So in case of Windows, for example, you are doing the operating system in your own laptop. So after finishing off this OS, so at last it is asking, so what is the name of computer? So generally by default, okay, some you are giving your names generally, say Sudhir or Chiranjeevi. So that's why you are giving some names. But that user has the admin credentials. Whatever the user that you are giving, those are by default, it is administrator. Administrator. So the default username for launching the Windows machine, for connecting to Windows machine, it is administrator. So for Linux, it is for Linux machine, it is EC2-user. And for Ubuntu, it is Ubuntu itself. These are very, very important. So for Windows machine, the default username is administrator. For Linux machine, it is EC2-user. For Ubuntu machine, it is Ubuntu. Okay. So next. So these are some major important parameters that you must know before launching the machine, virtual machine. So you can launch the Windows machine, you can launch the Linux machine, you can launch the Ubuntu machine. Okay. So now I'll show the how to launch the one instance. First, I have created new account here today. So when you go to the VPC, so it is already showing one VPC. That VPC is called as a default VPC. For you also, if you create the Amazon account, AWS account, so for every account you have a default VPC is there. So this is a default VPC. So some subnets. Okay, VPC dashboard. So if we go here, so it is showing the list, total list. Here, subnet, 3 subnets are there here. Those are 3 default subnets only. So these are not created by myself. So for you also, we have these subnets. So now, how to launch the EC2? I'm just going with these default VPC only. Okay, if you want, you can create the VPC and you can attach the VPC to this EC2 instance. Part also I will show. Okay, so first I'm just going with a default VPC itself. Okay, here I'm launching the EC2. I'm just here typing EC2 instance. So here click on the EC2. Finally, here it is showing a new version. So when you click on this, is a new version. So, but new version is not as proper. That's why I'm selecting the old versions. First, how to create an instance. Okay, how to create an instance. So click on the instances here. Click on the instances here. So it is showing initially there are no instances here. We need to launch a fresh instance here. So click on the launch instance. See, if you see here, a lot of images are available here. All these are images, but operating systems. So see here, Amazon Linux. Okay, this is Amazon service, Amazon Linux too. Okay, the Amazon itself he customized the Linux operating system and provided it. Okay, so next Mac OS is there. So next, all these are Mac OS, and here see Red Hat Enterprise Linux. So this is the OS we are generally using. So Red Hat Enterprise Linux. The short form is RHEL. RHEL stands for Red Hat Enterprise Linux. Next, if you see, so SUSE Linux. This is also one of the service, one of the operating system, Linux operating system. So this is Ubuntu. Ubuntu operating system is there. So see here, it is Microsoft Windows operating system is there. Okay, so all these are Windows-based operating systems. So you can launch any one of the machine, but remember, you are supposed to launch the machine which is under free tier only. If you are launch any machine, okay, first you need to check whether it is belong to free tier or not. Okay, without knowing that, if you just launch a machine, so heavy charges will be applicable. So for that, first here we need to check here. So here we have a checkbox, free tier only. So when you check this box, it is showing the images which are belong to free tier only. So see, total 17 images are there under free tier. Okay, under 17 are there, and out of 17, so Amazon Linux is there, Red Hat Corporation Linux is there, 2C Linux is there, Ubuntu is there, so Microsoft Windows Server is there. So you can use any one of the operating system for launching the machine. So for the first time, I'm taking RHEL. So Linux machine I'm taking to launch. So click on the select. So this is very important phase it is. So see here, so this is a family. If you understand each and every point here, so this is nothing but the configuration place. Okay, which type of instance you need? What is the configuration? So configuration means how much RAM you want, what is the CPU size, what is the hard disk size. So like that, we have the configuration is there here. So see here, here we have a family. So family that is belong to T2 here. Okay, so type. So T2 nano, T2 micro, T2 small, okay, T2 medium, T2 large. So if you go on to the bottom, so here it is now T3. So T3 micro, T3 small, T3 medium, T3 large. Okay, so likewise, if you go on the bottom, so it is C5 series now. Okay, after that, D series is there, G series is there, I series is there, M series is there, P series is there. So all these are depending on the application, depending on the requirement. Okay, you need to give okay this configuration. Generally, this configuration in the real time that is suggested by the customer itself. The customer he itself, I want this much of RAM, I want this much of storage, I want this much of number of CPUs. So like that he suggested. So based on that only we need to take, we need to create the instance. Since we are learning purpose, we need to go for only the free tier, free version only. That's why by default it is selecting T2 micro. And if you observe the third column, so here the second column, if you observe nano, micro, small, okay, medium, large, x large, so 2x large. So all these are nothing but the representation of the number of CPUs. Okay, so see here, so CPUs here. So here it is having only one CPU. Okay, so T2 small also having one CPU. So T2 medium has two CPUs. So as the number of CPUs are there, so what happened? So you can in that machine you can launch many applications. If the CPU having only one only one CPU, the machine having only one CPU, then it is very difficult to run multiple applications. Okay, CPU means central processing unit, right, where the application is actually executed. So if it is large in number, then only you can execute the more number of applications. So since it is having only one in number, therefore it is you can launch only few number of applications. Okay. Next, memory. Coming to the memory, it is a GB based on the number of GBs. So see here it is 1 GB RAM. So this is the RAM, not ROM. So it is RAM only. So it is having only 1 GB RAM. So T2 small having 2 GB of RAM. T2 medium having 4 GB of RAM. T2 large is having 8 GB of RAM. So likewise, so the RAM capacity will be increases. So see T2 dot to X large, it is having 32 GB of RAM. So likewise, so depending on the requirement, so the RAM you need to select. So see here, we have 256 GB of RAM also will be there here. When you so 384 also will be there. So depending on the application and requirement. So see here 512 GB of RAM. So in our laptops, generally we are using 4 GB RAM or 8 GB RAM, or maximum you can go for 16 GB RAM. But see here in the real time, so the application should be available continuously. That's why the application should be placed in the servers where the servers are having high configurations. Okay, all are having high configurations. Clear, right? This is the fourth column, that is memory, RAM in GBs. So next, instance storage. So EBS. EBS means elastic ballistic store. Elastic ballistic store. This is a type of volume. Okay, volume that is generally we are using. So I'll explain the volume concept later. You can understand that. Okay. So next, nothing. These are sufficient. So to understand point. So here we are by defaultly we are taking T2 dot micro. Why? It is under free tier eligible. If you select any other, charges will be applicable. Understood? If you select any other than the free tier, charges will be applicable. So it is having, so see here T2 micro, it is having one CPU, so 2.5 gigahertz of this frequency and 1 GB of memory that is available. If you select other one, so here other one, so here it is one CPU, so 2.5 GB RAM. So if you select T2 dot medium, so then it is two CPUs, 2.3 gigahertz and 4 GB RAM. So likewise, so depending on the selection, okay, so this will be available. Okay, so now I'm going for a free type. So T2 dot micro. So next, click on the next one. Now this is the third step, very important. So here total we have 7 steps are there here. So first step, choose AMI. AMI means Amazon Machine Image. Amazon Machine Image. Okay, so already we have selected one image, right? So RHCL Linux image we have selected. Next, choose instance type. Already we have selected the instance type. What is the size of, what is the configuration of that instance? That is we have selected here. Next, configure the instance. Now we need to attach that. Already we have created one VPC, right? So you need to attach that VPC to this instance here. So see here, number of instance, it is only one by default. Okay, you can change this number when you go for auto scaling purpose. But currently it is only one. So next here, network. So here it is by default, here it is having one default network. I'm taking the default one. If you create any new VPC, you can also create the VPC here itself. So if you click on this one, you can also create the VPC here itself, and you can, once the VPC is created, just refresh the page, then you will get the VPC here. Select that VPC. But here currently I don't have any new VPCs, so I'm going with default VPC. So similarly, subnet. So I have 3 subnets. Okay, you can choose any one subnet. Or if you have already created any one subnet, so attach the subnet here, give the subnet here. Okay, here I'm taking no preference. No preference means it will take any one of the existing one. Okay, so here I'm currently taking it is no preference. So auto assign public IP. So this is also very important. So use subnet setting enable. So here enable disable, two options will be there. So why this option is selected means, so generally, if in the last class I've explained 3 types of servers. So web server, application server, database server. So out of 3 servers, web server should be always allowed for public access. So based on the subnet you have selected, okay, here you need to enable or disable the public IP. Okay, so for example, to subnet A, subnet B. So subnet A is allowed for public access. Subnet B is allowed for private access. So when the subnet A is for public access, so the public should access that server. So for that you need to allow the IP. You need to give the IP. Public IP should be, you need to give in. Otherwise the users cannot access that IP. Okay. But whereas for private IP, you should not give the IP. You should not give the IP to the public. If you give the IP to the public, then there are chances of hacking, okay, and misuse of the database or any application code that will be happen. That's why whatever the subnet that is you are giving the private access, you should disable the IP. Okay, you should disable the IP. So whatever the subnet you are allowing the public access, you need to enable the IP. So here already in your case you have created two subnets. One is public subnet, another private subnet. If you want this instance, if you are launching one instance, right? If you want that instance in public network, then give the public subnet here. Okay, so if it is public means you should enable that one. Enable. Click on the enable. Or default it is enabled. If you want to launch this instance in the private subnet, then what you need to do here, you need to select the subnet as private subnet, and here the IP should be disabled. So this is a very important concept you need to understand. So just understand clearly. So this is very important stage. The remaining options are not required as of now. All these options are not required as of now. Okay, in the third step, so these three options are very important. Selection of VPC, selection of subnet, selection of public IP. So these three are very important. Understood? Any doubts here? If no doubts, I will proceed to the next step. Here, whatever the VPC you have created, you need to give the VPC here. Second one, subnets. So you have two subnets. One is private subnet, second one public subnet. Okay, so if you are selected the private subnet here, then this IP should be disabled. Public IP should not be given for private access. If you are selected here public subnet, then you need to allow the IP. You need to assign the public IP. Clear? I'm going to the next step. So what is the fourth step? Add storage. So in the second step, we are checking the settings. So what is the number of CPUs, what is the frequency, and what is the RAM size? That is, we are selected in the stage 2. In the step 4, here you need to add the volume. That means hard disk, ROM size. Here you need to select the ROM size. So see here, the volume type is by default it is root and device. So this is very important. I'll explain again this in the volume concept. We have a separate concept of volume. I'll explain that again. So here /dev/sda1. So this is the path. This is the path of the volume. So this is a snapshot and size. So by default it is giving 10 GB of RAM, ROM. By default size for free tier it is 10 GB of ROM. And volume type. So volume type, if you go here, so general purpose SSD, so GP2, GP3. So two types are there here. Provisional is there and provisional here it is there, and magnetic. So here three types of volumes are there. One is general purpose, provisional, magnetic. Okay, so by default, generally we are taking general purpose SSD. So we know that there are two types of hard disks. There are two types of hard disks. So first one is HDD, second one is SSD. So HDD means hard disk drive. Second one, SSD means solid state drive. So our most of the laptops are coming with this HDD only. So nowadays we are seeing the SSDs. Why we are going for SSDs? SSDs are very fast. SSDs are very fast when compared to HDD. Okay, if you have two systems or two laptops, one is with HDD, other one is SSD. If you turn on the two laptops at the same time, the laptop which is having SSD is launching first. After 5 to 10 minutes, after 2 to 3 minutes, so the second laptop that will be turned on. Okay, the laptop which is having SSD, it is booting in a very fraction of seconds. Within half minute, you are able to log in into your Windows. Okay, whereas HDD, it is taking a lot of time. Okay, so SSDs are very costly also when compared to HDD. Okay, but in the real-time environment, so mostly they are using SSDs. No HDDs are used because we need the fast. Okay, we need the fastness in delivering the production environment. Okay, so again, I'll explain this concept, why we are going for general purpose, why provisional. So I'll explain this concept in the volume section. We have a separate topic called volume. In that topic, I'll explain the types of volumes. So next, so since we are using general purpose SSD, so it is working with IOPS. IOPS means input output per second. So generally, there are two types of uh, right volumes. Right here, just we are seeing general purpose and provisional. Okay, general purpose and provisional. And here hard disks are two types. One is HDD, other one is SSD. So in HDD, the data transfer can be happened in MB per second, MBPS. Is MBPS megabyte per second. The data that is transferred megabyte per second. Whereas in case of SSD, the data is transferred in IOPS. Nothing but input output operations per second. IO operations per second. Okay, so this is the representation. So these are normal hard disks which are transferring the data in MB per second, megabyte per second. Whereas in SSDs, it is the data transfer is with IOPS. So based on the requirement, so see here I'm just selecting the very basic. So here it is able to perform 100 IOPS and only 100 IOPS. If you select other one, GP3, so it can perform 3000 IOPS, 1000 operations, input output operations per second. If you select the provisional, so it is very high. Okay, it is just 500 operations, and if you select the other one, it is 5000. Okay, so once again, I will explain these concepts in the volume section. So next, delete on termination. So this is very important. By default, this checklist will be like this only. If you unselect this one, huge charges will be applicable on your credit card. Why? Because when you're launching a machine, okay, and when you terminate the machine, all the settings, all the work that you are done on the machine, that will be terminated or that will be deleted. So the name clearly indicating delete on termination. That means, so this volume, whatever the volume you are created, that volume will be deleted once the machine is terminated. Once the machine is terminated, so then what happened? That volume will be deleted. You are no longer to access the machine again. Okay, so if you unselect this one, huge charges will be applicable. So my colleague just he unchecked this one, and by default he added the next one. So he got 2000 rupees. Charges will be applied to him. That's why. So make the default setting as it is. Encryption. So if you want to make any encryption, you can give here. Otherwise, it is not. So this is a fourth step storage. Next one, tags. Okay, this is for only identification purpose. This is for identification purpose. What is the type of instance you are launching? So it is a public machine or private machine. So public machine can also be called as dump server. Public server you can call public machine or public server, whatever. It is also called as jump server or proxy server. We have three names for this. So public server, that is called as jump server or proxy server. So see here you can give the name as proxy server. It's only for identification purpose. Click on the next one. So the last step, that is very important step. So security group. So you need to provide the security. You need to provide the security for the instance, for the machine. For that, you need to create a security group. Okay. So see here. So for every machine, okay. So this is a very important point here. You must know. For every machine, there are 65,536 ports are there total. 65,536 ports are available. Okay, for every machine, for every virtual machine that you are launching, that machine has 65,536. So out of the 65,536, starting 1024 ports are allocated for OS applications, allocated for OS services. If you want to launch a new service, if you want to install a new service, then that service should have the port number that should be greater than 1024. That service, so newly installed service that should run at a port which is greater than 1024. Okay, so by default, the greatest point of this cloud provider AWS is, so for every machine you have 65,536 ports are there, right? So when you launch the machine, all these ports are locked. All these ports are locked. Whenever these ports are locked, nobody can access the instance. Nobody can access this server until you open the port. Got it? If you launch any machine, so by default it is having 65,536 ports are there. Out of these ports, starting 1024 ports are allocated for OS applications, OS services. If you want to install a new service, that service should be run at a port which is greater than the 1024. By default, all the ports are locked. So therefore, nobody can access the server until you open the port. Okay, until you open the port. So since, as I mentioned clearly in the previous point, the default port, if it is a Windows machine, the default port is 3389. If it is Linux machine, so it is 22. For Ubuntu, it is 22. So what is the meaning of this ports, default port? If you want to log in into the machine, you want to log in into the machine, the server or machine, that default port should be open. The default port should be open. Otherwise, we cannot log in into the machine. Understood? Okay, so for example, for your understanding point, I'm just explaining. So for example, you have a home. That home have some, say, 10 doors are there. You are locked all the 10 doors. If you want to enter into the home, so you must open at least one port, right? At least one door should be open to enter into the home. So like that. So to log in into the machine, okay, you must open the corresponding port. What is the corresponding default port? If it is Windows machine, the default port is 3389. That should be open to log in into the Windows machine. If it is Linux or Ubuntu, the default port is 22. That should be open. Otherwise, you cannot able to log in the machine. So therefore, here in the security groups, you are allowing the port. So it is a default one. You are not created this one. It is automatically came. So see here, your SSH is the protocol. Okay, SSH is the protocol. So here I'm just explaining here one more point. So protocol. So what is protocol? Protocol is nothing but that is the service that you are able to log in. So for Windows it is RDP, nothing but remote desktop protocol. If it is Linux or Ubuntu, that protocol is SSH. For Ubuntu also it is SSH. So what is the full form of SSH? SSH stands for secure shell. Okay, SSH stands for secure shell. Okay, this is the protocol that you are using to log in into the machine. Okay, this is a protocol that you are used to log in into the machine, and this is a default port that you are using to log in into the machine. So this is the SSH. Okay, so here you can find a lot of protocols, but since it is a this Linux instance, so you should use this SSH protocol. So if you click here, you will get the description here. The protocol to open the network traffic. You can choose a common protocol such as SSH for Linux instance, RDP for Windows instance, and HTTP and HTTPS to allow the internet traffic to reach your instance. You can also manually enter the custom port. So next is the protocol is TCP. So port, it is by default is taking 22. Linux machine, right? So it is allowing 22. So here you are writing 0.0.0.0/0. What does this mean? Yesterday also explained this one. So when you write this means, what is the mean? Any IP can access this server. Okay, any IP can access this machine. That is the meaning of giving all zeros /0. Understood? Now, last step to review and launch. So here, if you have any existing one, you can give this one. Okay, so if you want to give this one security one, you can give this one. Here, just to review the tasks what you are doing. So all these are the sections you are already completed. Just review it. So instance type, it is a T2.micro. So the number of CPUs is 1, RAM is 1 GB. So EBS only. So performance is only low to moderate. It is not high performance. It is only low to moderate performance. Security groups. So it is already you have taken the security group as launch wizard one. Okay. So EMI. So what is the EMI? It is Linux OS you are taken here. So in instance details, if we click here, you are launching what is the VPC, so what is the subnet. Okay. So what is the IP you have selected? So storage. So how much volume you are selected. So by default it is 10 GB only. You are selecting the same 10 GB. Tags. What are the tags you are given? Now launch. So while launching this any machine, it is asking to generate a new key pair. Select an existing key pair or create a new pair. If you want to log in into the Linux machine or Ubuntu machine, key is must and should. Therefore, you need to create a new key pair. So for that, here you have three options. Choose an existing key pair, create a new key pair, proceed without a key pair. So choose an existing key pair means if you already have a key, then you can choose it. Or if you don't have any key, so just create a new key pair. I'm just going with this option. So here give any name for key pair. Any name you can give here. So since I'm just launching the RHEL box, so I'm just giving RHEL key. I'm just giving the name as RHEL key. Otherwise, you can give your name, whatever the name you prefer, you can give the name here. So download key pair. Click on the download key pair. It's already there. The name is already there here. So I'm taking RHEL. Simply RHEL I'm taking. Download the key pair. So whenever you download the key pair, so one file is generated, that is rhl.pem. So pem file, that is it is going to download it. Okay, so just down here, so click on the launch instance. Okay, so remember, very important point. Without this key, you are not able to log it into the machine. Without this key, you are not able to log in into the machine. So key is must and should to log in into the machine. So click on the launch instance. So your instance are now launching. So click on this one. Now it is taken to the previously here it is no instances are there here. Now it is showing the instances. So one instance with name proxy server that is going to launch. So here you can see the details there. So instance name here. What is the name here? Proxy server you are given. Here if you want to change the name, you can change the name here. So instance ID here. This is instance type. It is T2 micro. You selected that one. So what is the zone? So AP South 1A. That is a zone. In the zone, this machine is launched. So instance state, it is running. Okay. So status checks. So this is very important. So I'll explain the status checks. Initializing. This is initializing. Alarm states. So if any alarms are there, then you can give here. So public DNS. So IP. So this is the IP of this machine. IP of this proxy server is this one. So what is the key name? That is you are giving RHEL is the key that is you are created. So there is no monitoring as of now. So what is the time of launching here? So what is security group you are given here? So these are the options you can see here. The same options while you are creating. So the same options you can also see simply by dragging this up. So here we have the options are there. Description. The first one is description. You see here. So if you observe here, the machine is not started yet. It is still initializing status. So here status checks are there. So there are two status checks. Whenever this is 2 by 2, then only the machine is now able to access. Okay. So see here also status check. So here you are able to see the status checks. Click on the status checks. So here there are two status checks. One is system status check, other one is instance status check. So what is the meaning of system status check and instance status check? System status check means so whether the zone, okay, this machine is launched in what particular zone, right? Whether that zone is healthy or not. Whether that zone is healthy or not. If the zone is healthy, so for that it is giving one check. So see here it is showing system reachability check passed. That means this zone is available. So this zone is available. Therefore, one check is completed. So one more check is there. That is instant status check. That means whether this instance you are created, whether that is launched properly or not. That is launched properly or not. For that, we have one more checklist, check 1. So therefore, see here 2 by 2 checks. Until unless you are getting the 2 by 2 checks, you cannot log in into the machine. You cannot log in into the machine. If it is still initializing, you are not able to log in into the machine. So once it is passing the 2 status checks, then only you are able to log in into the machine. Understood? So here, now go to the description part. Here in the description, so this is instance ID. Same, whatever the options you are shown here, the same options will be here itself. So instance status, it is running. What is the type? It is t2.micro. Okay. So here public DNS. So this is the public IP. Remember, this is the public IP. So 65.1.85.175.176. This is the public IP. Since this machine is your allowed public, therefore the public IP is visible. Now anybody can access this machine with the public IP. Anybody can access this machine, okay, with this public IP. So there are no elastic IPs were given here. If any elastic IP is there, so here that will be shown. So this is the private IP. So for every machine we have two IPs: public IP, private IP. So public IP is available here, and private IP is available here. So when you restart the machine, means stopping and starting. So when you restart the machine, the private IP is not changed. It is constant, but the public IP will be changed. Okay, but the public IP will be changed. So if the public IP is continuously changing on restarts, it is very difficult to work with such machines. That's why we are using the elastic IP. It's a very important question. Why we are using the elastic IP? Why we are going for elastic IP? It's a very important question. Okay. Next, security groups. Whatever security groups you are given, so here you can use the security groups. So inbound rules, outbound rules. So next, what is the VPC here you are given? So what is the Amazon machine ID? Image ID. This is the image ID, Linux image ID. So here the subnets details here you can see here. Okay, so is a platform. What is the platform? It is RHEL box. Okay, similarly you can see the lot of stuff here relating to the machine. So whatever the number of CPUs, it is 1. So here you can see the volume details. So this is the volume details. It is EBS, elastic ballistic store. That, so you can see the description here. So status checks that you have now already seen this one. So in order to launch the machine properly, so these two compulsory. So next, monitoring. So monitoring means currently it is not required. So CloudWatch is a tool, AWS tool. We will discuss at the time of CloudWatch. So tags. So whatever the tags were given, so name, proxy server, this is already given while launching the instance. Now you are created instance, that is Linux instance. Similarly, you can launch the Ubuntu instance, you can launch the Windows instance. Now, how to log in into the machine? So similarly, I can log in, I can launch one more instance, Ubuntu. So what is step? First step, here here I'm just selecting the free type. I'm selecting the free type. I'm just using the Ubuntu machine. So here you can also see reader eligible. So click on next. So I'm taking the T2 micro, which is free. So next one. So here also I'm taking this default VPC and this also default one. So I want to log this machine in the public. So therefore this public access is there. Next, add storage. So see here the default storage it is 8 GB as mentioned. So here also I'm taking ZP2. Okay. So next it should be checked only. Add tags. So here name. Here I can give any other name. So like web server. Any name you can give. So security group. Here you can select the existing security. So I'm selecting the existing security. This one only. View and launch. Now here I'm taking, you can, if you want to use existing one, you can use, or I want to create a new key pair. I want to create new key pair. So I want to create a new key pair, Ubuntu. I'm creating the key pair as Ubuntu. So download the key. The thing already it is there. So one thing I will do it. Okay, so two things. The key is generated. Now launch the instance. Here the name will be automatically there. So see here by default it is showing the recent instance that is created. So close this. You can see all the instances which are created. So see here the status is pending. Why it is pending? Because the 2x2 checks are not yet completed. Once it is completed, then this also will be under running state. Okay. So now click on the refresh. So it is running, but the machine will be available once the 2x2 checks are completed. Until unless 2x2 checks are there, then you are not able to log in into the machine. So I want to change the names for these machines. So here proxy server is there, right? So this is RHL machine, right? So I'm writing as RHL box. Web server is there. This is nothing but Ubuntu box. That's just for understanding purpose. I'm just modifying the RHL box and Ubuntu. So you can refresh here to get the statistics here. So meanwhile, so now I'll explain how to log in into the machine. How to log in into the machine, I'll explain. So first I'm taking the RHCL box. Okay, so in order to log in into the machine, you need to download two tools. You download the two softwares. The first one is Putty. Second one is Putty Gen. These two tools you must download from the internet. So how to download? So here go to the Chrome. So type Putty download. So click on the first one, Putty. So here you have an option. So download Putty. So you can download the Putty here. Click on here. It is related to some other page. So see here. Here you can see number of options. So since you are downloading that into our Windows, so you can take this option. So Putty for .msa file. If it is 64-bit operating system, you can use this one. If it is 32-bit, you can use this one. So 64-bit. So download this one. Okay. So Putty is downloaded. Next one, Putty Gen. So see here you can see the option Putty Gen. So here you can click on this Putty Gen. Now the Putty Gen is going to download. So these two softwares are must and should for downloading the to log in into the machine. Once it is done, so install the Putty. Install the Putty. So this is nothing but putty. The option is that it is one. Putty is installed and putty gen. So click on the putty gen. So this is putty gen. This is the installation for this putty gen. Okay. So now how to log in into the machine? How to log in into the machine? That is very, very important. Okay. So for that, you already, the first step is, so you already downloaded the keys, right? So what is the key name? So what is the key extension? It is pen, dot pen. It is maybe RHEL dot pen or Ubuntu dot pen. Okay, if you want to log in into the instance, you need to convert. You need to convert dot pen file into ppk file, dot ppk file. You need to convert dot ppm file into, oh sorry, pem file, dot pem file into ppk file. So how to convert this pem file into ppk file? For that, we are using puttygen. For that, we are using the tool puttygen. So select the puttygen. This is puttygen. So click on open this puttygen. Now load here. Load the existing private key. So load. So here you need to select all here. Okay, here already previously I have downloaded one thing, so just deleting that one thing. Confusion. So now here I have two PEM files. One is RHEL PEM, other one is Ubuntu PEM. I want to convert these two PEM files into PPK files. So first one RHEL.pem. Open this file. So click on OK. So save private key. Click on save private key. So now see here, it is private key. So .ppk extension is there. .ppk extension is there. So RHEL. So type RHEL or any other name you can give. So RHEL save. Now see here, RHEL.pem is now converted to RHEL.ppk. Similarly, I want to convert the Ubuntu PEM file. Ubuntu PEM file is there. I want to convert this into Ubuntu ppk. Now close this one. Now, in order to log in into the EC2 instance, or you must need the key. Without the key, you are not able to log in into the instance. Now, second step is over. You have converted the PEM file into PPK file using puttygen. Third step is, now you need to log in into the machine. Log in into the machine. So how to log into the machine? By using tool called putty. Using the tool putty. So this is a putty tool. So you are getting the screen like this. See here, when this screen is open, here it is showing host name or IP address. So here you already launched the two machines, right? Here. So for each and every machine, you have the IP public. Okay. So for that machines, you need to take the public IP or private IP also will work, no problem. So since I'm logging into the RHEL box. So taking the public IP. So if you click here, so this IP will be copied. So no need to drag and drop. So you simply click here, that this IP will be copied. So go to the putty. So paste here the IP. So see here, you are logging into the Linux machine. So the port will be 22 only. So default port here it is 22. Now, as I said previously, so to log in into this machine, IP along with IP, port and key, these three are mandatory. What are the three requirements? IP, port and key. So these three are compulsory to log in into the machine. So you already given the IP, so you already given the port, and you need to give the key. where you need to give the key. So to give the key, so click on the dot SSH here and click on the AUTH authentication. So here browse. To browse the PPK file. So here this is the PPK file. So open. Now click on open here. Now it is asking for prompting. So click on yes. Now it is asking the username. So what is the username for RHCL box? Already I have given in starting. So the default username for Windows it is administrator. For default username for Linux it is EC2-user. The default username for Ubuntu is Ubuntu itself. So therefore I am here giving EC2-user. Click on enter. Here the issue with the key. Let's do one thing. Some issue with the key here itself. Uh, let's log in the Ubuntu box here first. Copy this. Click on this one. So for Ubuntu also port is 22 only. You click on SSH authentication. Browse the key Ubuntu. Open. So here open. It's asking yes. So now here give the name as Ubuntu. And there is an issue with the key itself for both. So we have to do one thing. We change the name here Ubuntu 1 and RHCL. So let me try to log in. An issue with the key here it is showing. An issue with the key here. The key to one of each function. So we need to convert this from file into PPK file. And it is showing right. So EC2 hyphen user. Authenticating the public key, so I'm able to log in into the RHL box. Previously, there is some issue with the key itself. That's why I'm unable to log in there. Okay, so similarly here, if I launch this Ubuntu box, one more Ubuntu box, and I'm able to log in into Ubuntu machine itself. So what is the default username for EC2? For Linux, it is EC2-user. For Ubuntu, it is Ubuntu itself. You are created the virtual machine, Linux machine. So this is the Linux system. So here you are no need to, you don't have the option for GUI. Whatever you do, you can do the command line itself. Here I'm giving a name, name. You can use the same name, it's not a problem. Giving a name, sorry. Here launch the instance. So before that, I need to convert that file into PPK file. Get mentioned as jump sub. This now go to this instance. You can give this as 1. Now see here. Now we have total 4 machines, right? We have created already 2, and now we have created. Total 4 machines are there. 4 machines. So these two are newly created. These are old machines. So now, if you how to stop the instance? How to stop one instance means so just select one instance in the actions. The actions you can see so network instance state. Instance state here you have some options are there: start, stop, reboot, terminate. So if you stop the instance, so as I said previously, right? So why we are going for elastic IP? Because whenever you restart the machine, the IP of the machine will be changes. So now I will show how the IP is changing. So for that I'm just noting down the IP of this Ubuntu box. So this is the IP of the box. IP of the Ubuntu box. Now what I'm doing, I'm just stopping this instance. Just stopping the instance. It will be stopped for a particular time. So I'm just deleting this RHL box. So I'm just here selecting this instance type terminate. I'm just terminating this one. Terminate. Just make sure to select this one. Click on terminate. Now RHL box is going to terminate. So out of 2 machines, one I'm just stopped here. So see here, stopped it is showing the red color, and RHL box I'm just shutting down. Nothing but terminating. Okay, so now again I'm launching this machine. Okay, I'm again starting the machine. So here, click on here, start. Now here again it is pending state, and we need to wait for 2x2 checks and check for the IP. Our objective is to check the IP. So the IP will be changes, but private IP will be same. If you notice the private IP, that private IP will be constant. So here, so IP is generated for this Ubuntu box. So this is the new IP. So if you compare the two IPs, so see, two IPs are different. That means for public IP, that will be changes when you restart the machine. That's why you are using the elastic IP. If you're using the elastic IP, then the machine will have the same IP even after restart. Okay, so now I'm just this is also I'm just terminating this one. So now we have two boxes. One is RHL, other one is Ubuntu. Already we have login into the RHL box. Now we are logging into the Ubuntu box. So Ubuntu box IP here it is there. Now go to the putty. So give the IP here. The port will be same 22. Here you need to pass the key. What is the key? Please jump server. Open. What is this? Jump server only, right? What is the key? Some issue here. Here some issue with the key or putty here. So same thing you are prompting here. It is asking for login name If you type Ubuntu, then you are logging into the Ubuntu box here. So typing anyone, it's not a problem. You can also choose anyone, it's not a problem. Here, instance. Maybe Zone 1C, that is not possible. Yeah, it's an issue with my cookie in local. Otherwise, it is showing a correct one. Problem with my cookie. But here, one IP generated. Click on the cookie. This one. Before that, you need to convert PPM from file into PPK file. So, all files here, Ubuntu key, and private key, Ubuntu key, authentication, Ubuntu key, this some of that. The machine is not yet up. Once 2x2 checks are there, then you are able to log into the machine. Can exit here. Issue here with the cookie itself. Do one thing, so target your machines in your systems. Okay, if you have any doubt, you can ask me. So just today what we are did. So just we are followed EC2 creation procedure, and we are logging into the RHEL box and Ubuntu box. This is the default username for RHEL box. It is EC2-user. For Ubuntu, it is Ubuntu itself. Okay. So tomorrow task is, so all of you should create. First task is create EC2 instance in Linux machine and Ubuntu machine, and convert file to PPK file. Third one, log in to the machine. So do the 3 tasks tomorrow. So if you have any doubts in this procedure, you can ask me. Don't have any doubts here. Okay.
చూడండి సార్, అది చెక్ అయితే అంటుంది.
చెప్పండి.
స్టేటస్ చెక్ 2 అయిపోయినట్టుంది సార్. ఇందాక రన్నింగ్ లో ఉంది కదా. లేకపోతే పాత మర్చి చూడండి సార్, ఆ ఫైల్ .pem ఫైల్ ఉంది కదా, మనము Ubuntu 1 అది సేవ్ చేశారు కదా, అది డెస్క్టాప్ మీద కూడా దగ్గర ఒకసారి పేస్ట్ చేసి .pem ఫైల్ తీయండి.
Here you can check the name of the key file if you have multiple keys. Ubuntu means Ubuntu. Error only. Showing the error from 50 itself. Why this error is machine the 50 itself. Just install 2 softwares, Putty and Putty Gen, in your local and try it. If you have any doubts, you can ask me.
At a time